I'll come back to whether or not the harm is justified when he was off duty. If it be common law doctrine, yeah, decisions are your judges near courts are making due to decided cases, due to cases are about our man so much nothing here. There was a condition where air president and Senate may make a decision way. It is to be noted that the American it is applicable when an officer is on duty.
Okay.
If an officer is off duty, now or ye be act here unreasonable and here from the fact a chinye is a minor issue. Sebi so bo nipa na sunkra kai odin beto asemu because situation. That's why I mentioned two things: one, reasonability, and to extent.
It even if he was on duty, where a minor assembly,
minor
and
issue.
It wouldn't have made sense though he was on duty.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Officer may be on duty. No arrest still. Or see the Nechimunko police station. Watch us. Oh, we on park okay. He's on duty. Now so no parking is say, yentem no the ban shoot him say, boom, it was not reasonable.
Okay.
It is sasa no betimi ama na then watch you know. There was see who Cynthia, Criminal and Other Offences Act. Expelling murder Cynthia intentionally causing harm, unlawful harm to someone else.
Okay.
So if because of some small misunderstanding, Ubetre weapon cause harm and that harm eventually ends up in death, the only thing I can say about this is murder. He cannot plead for manslaughter.
Okay.
So person who Crime Check Foundation, Jumedi Ayedi Abreni na koya YouTube channel Crime Check TV GH. Subscribe my end.
So subscribe we are. Me adom manaso. Send your video be ade betu bia. On sabeka na wo so etimi ahwe bi. E mara if you say oba like it, oba share na wa comment ye da ase.
You are for yamamu nyina akwaba. Tap send so what ya. E kwan tietia a ye fa so send sika free amanone eba Ghana manmo. Se wo Europe, se wo UK, se wo Canada. Uni how kra. Ko App Store ho ana Play Store ho na download tap send app no. Wo download do pe obebisa wo promo code. Obisa wo pe eno an se wo abahye ho Crime Check said de mo hwe ya. Crime Check. E ho ne ho a wo Europe ubenya €5. Wo Canada US ubenya $10. So wo UK ubenya £5. Na wo mpe we na wo pe de. Na tie ni jeseme ye. Tap send do send sika no a eye free of charge. And te said the keka ho ne bi wo ha obetua charge no. Na sika no ebetima beto o mobile money wallet ana se o bank account mo. Na wo mpe we edin biem e na wo pe. Tap send eye easy, eye fast, eye secure. Tap send papa no. You are here for Mamunyina Kwaba about Crime Check TV. Na ene ye the educative program bi na brema em say emprepi you know yenya calls bebre ni pepi wa ha emra no mu nsem no aya na ebi ti o kakra omunti emra na si ye tai enya calls every amanone ene Ghana ha ya ebi e awaresem obi wa ha na sem o kan ne say me be fa me yere kwa bruchire enso ene me yira pam ye mi noma egu abonten ese oba beton ya japade a ewo fie and vice versa we also say bema apam me a me wa abonten ana japade a me ne bema na aye no opese osisi me aye nsem bebre na wo hwe ye programs a ye nso a ewo presence a ye sanya calls p ni papi wo ha won ti no me biase efa ekwan a judge etimi jeli nipa a bone a okoyeye no ya yinim emra no ya dwen eye se dabi we de ensesenka asema etise nipa no okowie efiase obi o hokra otimi ka se me no obi na enya asem ena me se me de ache no a police fa be che no but me eno de bone na di me se me de ache no ade ntine sese mo de ni tum me na me de me ho ye be hwe de mra no eka efa ho whether say o ka say yemfo bi bone nche no obi a offended the law wakasi mfa ne bone nche na esese court etie wa na the best look at discretion of judges tumi a judges wo eno no edu ba bi apart from emra no finchen no won wo tumi bi won betimi ama wo sentence no akonanim ana say won pa won ebete so eno see discretion of judges eno ma pii wa ha ye behwe na ni nyina nsema America ye ntimi mfa enne enhwe ni nyina entin ye be ne kakra na yama atifo ekwan comment section o de wonte ase bia na wabisa ne young man bi na ba be kan ho your friend Ismail Opon Kwatin to hwe me din Ibrahim Opon Kwatin na hwe ono so de Ismail Opon Kwatin o ye me ba pani a o ye law e university enti ye be use no kakra no ma legal education na se ba bi kire wadwen bi a wo fie na wo tie se wo adwumom se wo he aboa ama won so nsem bi bepem wa wo ho kwan a obefa so na de obey ni bia no wo ho ankokiro sana mepe aka eti mo mentwa ho mra na ye ba ya introduce Ismail Opon Kwatin a kire mo na ya hye ye dwumadie no ase sasase na opato a ma empopoti eja real estate say ubenya bia ohaw biara eni ho onkrata aka ho kanea wo ha ensuo wo ha anwea boyefo eboboyefo etikan ho na beje ode na nsa enyawo eti said e kan na banti a obekan ho Ismail Opon Kwatin oye me bapani wanya beto yen de na ye nso no ebe yisu no na ache ne nemdia kakra na nkwada no mo abodwese no hu kra obeka so mo chen mpanifo so abanesa na abanti ye ma wakwa aba ye se enebe bia o ma me eye me yere amina baby obi obe very proud of you me kai se time a ye do go school na ma me yare me she insisted say so be kaya
Absolutely.
or do be go school ama me kai se law faculty ho only twa photo
Yeah.
me pesa me desa photo no ebetudwa na akaye ya but in say baby will be she will be very proud of you.
Absolutely.
Na ene discussion no yenhwe eno maybe yemfa discretion of judges to me are judges ewo
Okay.
won etimi gina so apart from emran finching said that say the interpretation clear no won san wo to me bi ebi correct me ka say ebi a judge na no pa no ba na ne buofu de dada ebi correct me ka say bi ano ono udin oba bi kwa dada no yemfa say example bi oba na de magi ana ella na ella show judge na ella bi asema sa bi dino you know edu baby does it influence the judge man kai bibia na but before that yenko bawa smaila you be a mikoto no prisoner for ebisemu nyina mo be kai story a stolen items so be the beton Joyce and moma no according to bawa no nim say Joyce there ya be che bawa asem copy court the copy court no Joyce ba ho catch a judge and say papa judge and I'm a complainant then so abranti we madam for mestre say fache no eno no ye be ko Ismail ho ne akobisa no say me na me de me ho wa be wi ama ade me ni tia me makọ report to be bet me say me de acho ene ye one de tosu me no bawa se me ya bawa judge na ntie o man 5 years ye man 5 years no e she na o se me ntia se Joyce me madam for say fasem na cheme na wama me 5 years into papa judge nyame betwa wo kapa judge ni gina so ma ba wa 2 years e kan the sentence no ma e koye 7 years before say yebeko Ismail Hakwaji church mu no yebeko akofa ba wa story no aba emra udidi judge no atem ana oboy amane bawa etisen
ba chonya mi adun ye
wo hwe charge a ye de ball wa edu abehwie e wutu camp prison ha se ya e kro no ye se ukuri ade e de no ma na akuri aye
ba cho chief mi ba cho mi wi aye bet e kro no ne ma na mi to e bet almost statement mi say stealing case
wan ko wia ade wan ko fro dan
David
wan ko ra obi dan
ni mi dada
stealing case no aye de to so no e ban say na de stealing case no e to so e omra unwi ade
almost mi krono de mi tonu mi to de bia enti mi so mi ye kronfo
just how de djuma odi an say krono no ma na to eton
enti na mo ye no stealing case no mami
na de na abrantie kama na krono no ma na wo de wai wadwen say wo beto no aton de bia krono no ma wo to no aton ba wa ade
me to be that chief me can that because me can do sa position na me to kroniama but omudi bre me no say 20 back we boys be I wo area mo be didi wo me ho mo to aduane nti
edi o mo be didi o edi adwuma na wo ye
me a chef me nua wachi fried rice plain rice any jollof any tatale ni we friend say beans
hefa na onu ano
but I adidomi for to sugakupe to adidomi ti mi won like 2 place I mean me dua na me ton me wan kwala amu bua mi me ni
kwala sen na wo
de omu sua juma mi ho so omu ye 4 ena de omu sua juma ye me nua ma me kofa Benin omu ye mienu ena omu mi ho ti mi adwane ma jama mu no makọ na mi de mi wo fie ti tambia na makọ sisaska na bi se adwane sa na masa
e ba ne so boys and e de normal na brew e de normal no de brew
na mi ka mi so ka che Ghana man say e wo nyakopo asema ka se me twantro e Cindy rice kesie ni bi
se wo si nyankopon osua akire nyankopon se asama wo ka akire me ne Ghana fo nyina no kre
ba chon
jele udie wa bedi mfie nson wa bedi watwa mfie ne bebre ma
mfie bi aka for month
no kre nyame ndim no kre no a wo ka akire ne ene sen
because bia we be wa bonti na adwuni say bia we a wo di ni kasa akra wo e kronfo na wo dada
no de jama atiefo chireng eba ne sen ede no ma no de brewo
temo Cindy rice
dodo sen
20 bags kese ni bi 20 bags a to akra 2014 mo mutonu ye to e ba akra e tonu 1.7 1.6
170 Ghana 160 Ghana sana no mutonu nkran
yes to enti o mudi bre mi 1 million
no de bre 1 million
20 bags ne 20 million ti e ba no ami wo bi no na mi di ma mu ti enche bia na mesumiti wo ye ho
bawa ye twen ade no o konkran ye ton no 170 Ghana cedi ana 160 Ghana cedi obi aba o ye chef o no e moton
sa
obi de mo 20 bags aba onipa kon de ba wunim no
minimum
wadamfo a
minimum
wunim ne pa
minimum pa minimum mu mienu nyina ade
nipa mienu na de ba na omo adwuma omo ye ne se omo ton mo
debi omudi omu ya cookie bofo omu bo cookie eni
na obi a obo cookie omu nipa waji atum so omu bo cookie na oma brow emu bags 20 omu ba ye nso a wa nso gitum se ade no ne bo konkran 170 Ghana cedi ana 160 Ghana cedi na sebe cookie fo e de normal abrow seto na oma teso de ama 1 million wadwe anya o se enkrofo e normal e bia oma kuwia na oma de abrem
ai minim se kronade pa entina misumie de mito bet man minim se ho de ma fu ho
na me pese e ka ho asem nti ade na wo yesa
na ma anye ni ye no na me ka che Ghana fo nyina se ma anye ni ye
enti no di kan me na me de me ho wa be wiama ade wa be me bone me se me de achew asembe ade enti na still as I said ya de me court na ya convict me.
The act of stealing, first of all, a criminal act. Whether or not whether or not reason would be a criminal act. Criminal act is act against the state, act hereby. And to share criminal offenses act stealing, you are trying to bam. However, no question are you interesting about bar case in the Cynthia? You see onim say a joy is there, but unfortunately because now cry intention. Law casting your friend the menswear, you had the intention to take it. Into whether conform baby our idea and fan say what do you say will be adding our to her. The act alone, which is stealing, coupled with the intention, now our dream, so baby would be enough to warrant liability. Let's say enough since you do better than you hold do so where we are side the chrono. Unlike civil acts, a civil act it be between two people into any criminal act. There, I say battery and I say assault. It be a wabo be assumed because of misunderstanding. Sasa a torturous act, law of thought. Sasa ni pandit me agina so aka say oh misunderstanding be that e assembly by into near dissolving matter. However, there are no pardons for stealing because it's a criminal act. A kotia abide regulations.
Okay. Now,
yes.
So obi so intimate can say obabo masuma and also tiamra into and also no a civil matter cry wabo masum yaw yaw a idea tete me.
And also your law books more. However, it depends on circumstances. No, as I was saying, say if it was born out of a problems and and misunderstanding being a later matter said you can decide oh maybe a compensation a award okay because no misunderstanding they create this issue. However, stealing in of itself is a criminal act. It does not matter whether or not you say nipa na we are not or you are downfall and now you are downfall.
Judge bawa edidi na tem no judge ne bufu ye onti ase bawa didi na tem into the 2 years I can 5 years ana or the amano. Charge no ho kwan say ye di watem. Amampani cry di natem. Ye di the papi atem. Na wamano 2 years account. And no does it fall within the discretion and I say within the law no. E wo ho kwan say judge ne di 2 years I can ba ho.
Okay. So you are right and right. If it be contempt of court.
Okay.
Contempt of court as a Chelsea adi biara obeye anase obeka ebetia instructions a court of law the amount.
Okay.
Anase adi bi oho en wo so ye waye until it make a direct contempt of court. Chelsea ujina courtroom ho o kasa ya order osija e kasa no that's so kasa anase waka anything negative etia obia o courtroom especially the judge. One, and also indirect contempt. Let me ban say ebia obi and a company be AABB and a court a serving injunction to sa company injunction Chelsea ya chomuzo munjai de mo ye bia and now that's where they oye that's also contempt but then indirect because you are in the premises of the court. But here in the premises of the court, anything you do to put the image of the judge or the court to disrepute or disregard piano, it to be held as what? Contempt against the court. And follow-up question, Cynthia, does it lie in the discretion of the judge? Of course, judges are clothed with discretionary power. Naturally, they have the right to make any decision in their good faith. One thing you're supposed to know is that the discretionary power of a judge cannot be questioned.
Hey, now the only
I'll come back to that. What can be questioned, however, is subject to Osha Constitution Article 295, whether or not that act of the judge, it was made in arbitrary power. That means it was made in excess.
Okay.
It did not conform to the principles of natural justice. That's when you can question. For our viewers, me sure simply for baby woman, you can recall back to Montier 3 FM case.
Okay.
back in John Mohammed Tana radiophobia, I can't say.
Okay.
8 judges, so almost 30 almost on back judges, you know.
Yeah.
What happened? Yeah, chiom heading etumu. Ena, yes, serve your more term of imprisonment. Obi baby certainty, I didn't see a ban, sir. That goes to speak for the discretionary power of judges, Cynthia. What they deem to be fit and in their good faith is what will suffice. Not just say, no, so I make any decision they want to make. Aje, yetimi Cynthia decision is in breach of natural justice.
Okay, okay, so it's in breach of natural justice. Yeah, sure, that's a law bro free. I see anything.
Okay, indeed. Basic rights are human beings, and we are entitled to right to property, right to fair hearing, and many others. If it can be ascertained, it's just a bit Cynthia, so our decision on make here is too much or is in excess of these laid down rights.
Okay.
A bit me actually, I heading a cutting off.
Okay. Now back to the issue. Bawa, edidi atem. So discretionary powers of judges and it means what argue say arbitrary. Just say almost say see a protect woman. Nanso woman ye nipa. Adibi wo na omo ye na other people also feel say no papa ade a wo ye die me ne wo nya adwea. Ese say on to me voice it out whether Bawa was right or wrong. Judges are also not immune from criticism. Omo ye nipa enti so be criticize oma. What is wrong with that? Or say papa judge ade a we me ne wo nya adwea. Obebre pa. Obebre, you know, subject to you know susceptible to different interpretations. But I mean 2 years personally
well, I would want to say first that there might be a legal opinion. I'm not here to challenge the decision of the judge, but rather give an opinion as to whether or not the decision of the judge was really not in excess. Mr. Ibrahim is right. Sometimes one thing I want to make clear is that if maybe the theory of utilitarianism, judges before they make decisions, certain decisions, is it one that is going to help reform the individual?
Okay.
And I say, is it one that should clearly focus on punishing the individual?
Okay.
One focuses on the grounds that Nipa will see a punishing it duly, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And now, judges behind in the school of thought. So some of them also hold that, oh, okay, that's fine. I think with offense way there, the man in small term, it would be enough to reform the person because, I mean, stealing or my heading. I mean, too long of a term, it would be an issue. However, discretionary power of a judge, is always subject to criticism. And personally, I believe that it was in excess. Although contempt of court carries a fine and a term, depending on the facts. Naturally, if it's too extreme, it will carry a term of imprisonment. However, I mean 2 years. I cannot challenge the judge's decision, but I believe that 2 years is too much.
It's too much. Yeah, Bawa Brantia. I was going prison be Emma. You know, na assembly nipa pia bisame. Yeah, situated my friend discretionary powers of judges. To me, judges war. Apart from the law, the strict interpretation of the law, no one also to maybe adibi wo ha one bit me edo won nan ese for makasa adie we yen for say ne ye na ebeboa eno ene bi a question say this to me ni so on sa pi bia ene na wanim eye judge bi tan a opa odo beto ohaw mu eno ena ye hwa Mr. Ismail upon Kwatin or Chechrimu Achre. Nature say the discretionary powers of judges and as a to me it is situated within the law. Now the ehane say ebane saying so Emma judges be abuse because they have the power of discretion.
The question that's the issue and it's still ongoing. It's something that's very difficult to talk about. If we say so far as they hold the power, it would be very, very, we are in Ghana. If you look at past decided cases, it's very, 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 very difficult to say that any decision they've made is contrary to what you believe or contrary to what the public interest may even hold. Very difficult. Looking at your jurisprudence, your judges are more handled. But again, I'm not saying anything to discredit judges, but that's the current state of affairs.
Right. Move on now. Bayen na watwe miensa ni na abrante bia yakoto no e wo Winneba local prison na adeko a enam so ma okopie prison ho ne se wahye sojafo e kamo na according to abrante no ka okotre me se na soja ne bitim na ohun no so no say poa na abrante atade a wahye it is against the law. And I'm so my brandy could read court. Na court fining went to Mentria and no and I didn't read prison. In the papi so say we comment session in 7 Crawford Canada also. Oka abruch and Crawford share and celebrities be a she Santa Diano and your moshe. The banner na brandy ko share dear. No akochire no better no se banner na yakọ say na so we could read dear. I don't know where we are there actually minimum the madrid na metre before say asem ye be pensem mo no yen ko yechi na yen ko fa sa brand asem emra ye kopie ne so oh Winneba local prison na yenti asem a o de to yenim
okoshe soja for kamo ena otika mo na de okotana ne nchen so no no so ye soja ni apart from Bonia Udi Edoba and Adia and François Edoba Han Kai why a bonnet for Ruby?
Padam Pachoda be Bonia Mia and a more Mabupi Fiasian.
Na Oko share Saturday no sa a day.
Father Nat is a Milkway in Yabano and a Morpha, Hm Santalena may put you at them on a mission. And yet the writing. Torchams Mamishana Miso, by this idea, son, because I born 9. Tibia will be a yamshi. It's me to carry me for carnival esam upon a miffy. It's me by the Yedu Winneba Hayano now, Sojan for medium minimum to a Sojani. It's the upon of service and say, at Terena Mishano, your original Cambo Minya way.
Original.
Yeah.
I don't know the original, Ghana Soja for the and who I'll be and the original. And until you define to so I said to your fine, which you are fine idea, who could feel. Now I say, go and send no more. You are send a tool, so
24 million.
2,400. Now, when you scan here,
but I'm not because that time national, the wife struck a bit.
Is that against the law? So beshe soja tade.
Ye wamra a govern usage of military equipment and wearing of military uniforms. So you share Old NLCD Act 177. First section of Media 2 is saying no person shall use military equipment or wear military uniforms. 2008 and almost signed amendments act.
Okay.
Into a cost although no person shall wear that, we don't know the fact. Ebia na sa nipano or an ex-serviceman. Into under sa provision, the exception it was into so you're ex-serviceman, maybe now you're ex-military, and in current law, they say any military personnel to say prison service, police service, national fire service, immigration, customs and preventive service. So 5 classifications we. So one year active worker, and I say 1 year ex-service personnel, you are not allowed to don any of these attire or use any equipment. I even say I personally work for police car. The person made something interesting and me believe it's in here, it will serve to your good ear. One thing about your man see, we have ignorance of the law and ignorance of the fact.
Ignorance of the law and ignorance of the fact. Yet I say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And then I in the law no. What's the difference?
Around the ignorance of the law. Young fan is in here. In my wa obie nim sinte Ghana mra etia certain acts to say robbery and stealing. Won't mean casinte na me nim stealing airborne and na me nim robbery airborne. That's the term. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. However, ignorance of the fact a defense how bit me use bit me plead say oh papa judge na me nim say mum won't mean share military attire and police attire and whatever attire I'll be share. But now they were mistaken belief meaning Cynthia because I think this one thing we have to address. To the best of my knowledge, ye nim sentie sa atano say fake one na washa it can end you in jail because it be any fake one or shit.
Now you better who say fake one and answer your original.
It's up to them to determine. Some almost court no must say fake one or no share. Then I don't think there's no grounds for liability. Nature say almost mean na bibia so ncheno.
Okay.
Because
yeah, even so her ne papa ex-serviceman were free mo. According to this gentleman, Emerson no say the man ne papa ex-serviceman. And a beer only no so or kotwa de no share. Into clearly no enye fake. Naturally say ne papa we free mo atade. Ye soldier atade. We free mo no anchor back. Ena wakoshe. Into ba ne say dia na me say we boomra no.
Absolutely asemaba.
Okay, now ko fools nso a na omo de bi free abrochire ba ne ade. Ela kwa me hu say sometime be na wa hye bia o de atwa photo.
Okay.
Oh, you know, it's what you are saying is say come remwa omo behwe say ade no enye Ghana the prescribed one nibi na emu mo share something different because I know a lot of music stars ehye be me sure say eno beye die enye prescribed.
Absolutely.
Omo timi kra the shows because what the public has been talking about say na senkrofo Peter ehye this education is important. It all patch say the enye original enye prescribed na the osha
as far as it's not the original one, you will not be held liable because of the added me shit.
Okay.
They here say in your original.
Okay.
But I believe since the soldiers know, I would say more members of the armed forces, no more original one they can tell.
Okay.
That's why I'm sure he was arrested.
Right.
I think we have to look at this very carefully. Fire service, police service, prison service, customs and immigration, customs and preventive service. If you were the prescribed attire, original attire of either of them,
okay, obi ekofa original one ehye so obi na de man no say onye free him na wakopie court na oka kire judge ne say na unim say your original obi na de man no eno court and be pardon no say how no say because ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
100%. However, we go back to the discretionary power of judges. A honor judge no ebe yusu nipa ni intention.
Okay.
Only they no onim. Only the opebia share no onim say original and no share. So the onus would lie on the judge since you obe share fact no. Obviously, say nipa ni nima the person, the judge will find a way to help the person out. That's the main determinant factor.
Okay.
Their intention. However, in the present case, the papa is ex-serviceman. It doesn't matter. No name say original no share.
Okay.
Clearly knowing that there's a law against it. So I think the situation is tricky kakra.
Okay. It's just as you said, no, the judge will look at the broader the context.
Absolutely.
The broader your friend is saying
scope.
The scope.
Yeah.
Now what to me? And yes, the judges no call ya who so uniform near about 2 years, near my 5 years.
Not at all.
Okay, you tie who tie who be akoko, plantain, kutu, kwadu, kube, uko western region, uko central region. Most of the inmates no could be an omokofai near do my buani amani 2 years, amani 3 years, we are lucky amount 6 months. And yet at it Criminal Offences and Other Offences Act, clear on certain things. But so be a cover could be it be quite a community. Na yamani 2 years. How problematic is it?
I believe the question of Mr. Ibrahim Ebisano. That's one of the main objects of Crime Check Foundation. Then a bit me ayafa sad petty offenses here. Oko many countries overseas there's this something called the non-custodial sentencing law. And then non-custodial sentencing law a law yen fan the same here. Offenses be oha a back court anima. The court will deem since offenses way is of a minor nature. That it wouldn't be right to throw the person behind bars, It is our law, it comes in many forms. Say, Yashamo, Atade, Orange, community service. There are many variants of it. Maybe a house arrest. But unfortunately, the criminal justice system, it needs some regulations. It's still a bill in Parliament. Mr. Ibrahim has been pushing, advocating that this bill is passed into law. but clearly a political will need her. Into Asema Yaka, no, I am the amount for be in prison. But I believe Cynthia, before Cynthia, Sabiwe will be passed into law. The best thing that judges can do to help Cynthia, stealing, no matter what, stealing will be prevalent. Ebeba, amount for baby idea, amount for baby plastic chairs. The best you can do is Cynthia, be possible. However, before the bill is passed, no. The best thing we can do, listen to judges will reduce the sentence because because of a minor offense of stealing plastic chair on the 2 years, which clearly is not right because Ghana, our country Ghana, has long been known to focus more on reformation and rehabilitation.
And because of this human rights record?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we are punishing, we are throwing people behind bars to serve sentences of 2 years, I think it's too extreme. However, I believe most judges make his decision based on their good faith. Ebi ano modwene ho say omde nipa no to ba mucha nipa no besesa.
Enti the editwa to cry off duty policeman kills lady's boyfriend. And this is a story CCF crime updates. Yeah. Police you know or off duty but a taxi driver and how treat taxi. And I offer a rabi. Na okudu destination na around aircon. And the sika ho achi ye. The boyfriend for says sika oje around too much. So a misunderstanding ensued. You who also are to go her wakum abranten. One na off duty. Ne uni ejumam. In the first place, and so off duty, are you allowed to use the weapon or off duty?
This is a very interesting topic. It would be best if publicly we are aware of it. It's a very sad situation, so I sympathize with members of the family that may watch this. First of all, I was here to be BBS. So I'll start with the Criminal and Other Offences Act. If it be justifiable harm, that means justifiable, not just a harm to a reasonable extent a police officer on duty. Ebit me useful. I was here to assess there are situations where a police officer need duty. However, no, obit me stop instigation of a crime. Maybe an or share one person also. Any day is fully justified. Obit me stop.
Whether they are on duty or not.
That's if he's not on duty, and so far as there's no harm.
Okay.
However, no, this is interesting because if justifiable harm na America no, a trace space or law no be granted. I'm a police officer on performing a duty. However, what cause harm to someone to let me the baton and should be trim. I'm a moja no. Ni bia ni pan person dem be court. But the question lies to the extent any reasonability. Ebi ani ni pan we aka. No mo pursue no. No me hu car no di dwane no. Or they are pedestrian. Omutumu se sa act na ni aspect no ye no. Because damage to property, a bit may cause loss of lives. Reasonably, you know, I mean, if we allow it to ensue, it will cause a problem. So that's when carefully considered, police officer in duty who say no, this would be a problem. One could argue say he may have acted in the public interest. Let's chip in there. We are talking about a policeman who was not on duty. Maybe I remember. Okay, yes. They try to set a distinction between justifiable harm, how far it can go before I come to service. Okay. Into some grounds way, and I say, in Tokabisi, me suspect na pimobi, suspect na bobi, no prepare nipa. The police officer will say no. Suspect will be to cause a problem. Maybe or the baton, asheno. Nenam bit me a banesa. So far as a bit me tell listen to action or take here reasonable. Any harm no or inflict here no a reasonable. It's not to an extreme extent no. The law would grant that space. Into section 31 of the Criminal Offences Act at the whole. Section 32 it provides into here how is this justified to whether or not the harm is justified when he was off duty. If it be common law doctrine here. Decisions are judges near courts are making due to decided cases, due to cases about must so major here. Was a condition way air present and Senate may make a decision way. It is to be noted that the American it is applicable when an officer is on duty.
Okay.
If an officer is off duty, now oye bibia act here unreasonable and here from the fact echinye is a minor issue. Sebi so bo nipa na sunkra kai odin beto asem because situation. That's why I mentioned two things: one, reasonability, and two, extent.
It even if he was on duty, where a minor
minor
and
issue.
it wouldn't have made sense though he was on duty.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Officer may be on duty. No arrest still. Was it the Nechimunko police station? Watch us. Oh, we on park okay. He's on duty. Now so no parking. He says, "Yeah, no the abash with him." Say, "Boom." It was not reasonable.
Okay.
It is sasa no bet me man I watch you know. However, situation where one, you are not on duty, and you go an unreasonable extent to cause harm to an innocent person, and I will see you who Cynthia, if you're criminal and other offences act, expelling murder, Cynthia, intentionally causing unlawful harm to someone else.
Okay.
So if because of some small misunderstanding, ubetre weapon, I cause harm, and that harm eventually ends up in death, the only thing I can say about this is murder. He cannot plead for manslaughter.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a negligent act.
Okay.
It was purely intentional.
Okay.
And considering that he was off duty, there's no defense for him.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit brave. It's for said I can yeah, they normally people can go and police near actual. This is my license. Meba office. Or said da or chun to say be aboa ponchi and yede ahoma asone kon. And no me P or ha ACCC enipa enim emra nintino. Some unscrupulous police men and women take advantage of the hole in the law. Make a hole in the law. In this case, I'm talking about the ignorance. Not one or the ACC in a pabibre. Yabeshe and also. And no maybe a keka bail. Was police in a bailua. Also, I do be kawi. And also, you say it is completely against the law. Yabeshe and no. Yabesha say police a dying ka. And also police and dying ka. It's a police full P other debt collectors. Obi do be car or baba jessica. Ewo embrem ana any embrem. Yabesana share aware honsem say they didn't car no. Any pa obana bema transnoma eja aware we say japade say na se minya we say na se minya me na me befa awko abruchire ensem bebre. Yabehwe sa enoma ni nyina. Said Eddie Kanakano, it's a baby child agreement, comment section, natural at all. Next week, your name Ismail Ebeshe, na yaka.